Peace and welcome to everybody back to my channel. If anyone's seen my introduction, I just kind of went real quick based on things that are my interest, just to kind of give you a rundown of what this channel I'm gonna be focusing on. But today we're about to do something different. I'm gonna break down how I started with some knowledge and where I'm at in this world today. So we're gonna start off with how I started finding myself, right? And how I wanted to get there. So just like everybody else does, you start looking for religion, because that's basically what is thrown in our face all the time is religion, right? So I started picking up, and I'm gonna show you books. Started picking up, the Bible. Started reading the Bible. Started going hard on the Bible, just to kind of understand, what is it? What am I looking for? What am I trying to find? And through that, I spoke with so many different people, so many places I went to, just to see if I could find answers. What the answer was, I do not know. But I did want to know more about who am I? Who am I? And that's a lot of times what we all have to do is, who are you? Right? Who are you? Until you find that, and sometimes we may not even know who we are. I'm 42, and I'm still finding myself, right? So then I said, okay, how do I find myself? How do I continue to find myself? And then I read another book, right? And this is more on astrology. I said, all right, let me get into astrology. See, let me understand my sign, who I am through my sign, Aquarius. So I started finding that out. Okay, here's when things starts to change. At that moment, I want to say, if I'm correct, 9/11 happened. And at the time, I was probably 20 years old. At 20 years old, that rocked my whole world, right? Because I was like, what the heck is going on? What is going on? What is happening? They're saying we're being attacked. So that changed everything for me. A good friend of mine went to jail, was in jail for a little bit. I think he did a few months, came out. When he came out, he had a book that someone in jail, and then we became friends with this person, lent him, right? He let him borrow this book. A lot of people may know this book, some people don't, but this is it, The Biggest Secret, right? The Biggest Secret, David Icke. He came out of jail. He introduced this book, said, hey, I got this book. Man, you got to read it. Started reading this book. We started reading it together, matter of fact. Started reading it together. Like we was in school, you know what I mean? Like we was in school. He'll read some pages, I read some pages. And I was so intrigued, because it's like, man, how is this book explaining things that I'm seeing today, right? Planes crashed the Twin Towers. I'm from New York. What the fuck? It hit me. And I was intrigued. I was going crazy. And in the middle of that, I went and bought my own book. Went to Barnes and Nobles and said, I got to buy my own book, because I can't rely on someone else's book. I got to buy my own. Right? So I bought my own book. So that's why I have this book to this day. 20 years later. 19 years later. I don't know. It's been a while. And as I'm reading the book, halfway through, we start discussing about another book, which at the time they say, that it was banned from bookstores because of the content that it had in it. And it was this book. The people that know this book know what I'm talking about. William Cooper's Behold the Pale Horse. Some people get scared of reading stuff like this. I wasn't. I was to the point of, like I said, what was happening? What was happening from 9/11? And being who I am, I wanted to research more and more about what's going on, what is out there. What are these theories that are happening, right? What are these conspiracies that they're talking about? And I was intrigued, so intrigued. And then my friend and I, as we read all these books, said, man, wouldn't it be crazy if we could start seeing visuals, right? Having visuals on what is happening and all these different things. And it gave me a spark. I said, you know what? You're right. Let's go find. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find these visuals. I'm going to find who is out there doing things, And sure enough, I bumped into this guy. Whoever knows this or seen this, it was mind blowing, right? I guess, he talks about Oklahoma City bombing. At the time, sometimes when you're young, you don't really understand what's going on. You see things in the world and you just don't really pay attention to it. But through that DVD, I started understanding, Timothy McVeigh, Oklahoma bombing. I kind of remembered, but I didn't really care about it, right? Because a lot of us in these states don't care about what's going on, right? Because all we care about is what's in front of us, right? We care about our family, care about our jobs. We care about what just happened yesterday, what can happen tomorrow. But things that can affect us through worldly situations, we don't really pay attention to. Sometimes we do, but we kind of let it fly by. So through all these different things, I started learning more, right? I wanted to learn more and more. As I finished these 2 books, one thing led to another, right? Because as I'm seeking for myself, through The Biggest Secret, I learned something. And it talked about trying to be one with the universe and meditation. And that's what David Icke talked about towards the end of the book. Because through all these different trials and tribulation that the world may have, we still have ourselves with the energy. Whether you want to call it God, Allah, Buddha, whatever. We still have some type of connection. And I started learning more about that connection. I started realizing the connection and the energy that is around us. And through that book, whether people look at it as conspiracy, if you never got to the end, you never understood anything. All you thought about was conspiracy. And this is fake. And this can't be real. This can't happen. But I still, even through all that, still took into account the conspiracy as well as the energy, the meditation, the being one with the universe. So as I continued through my journey of continuously finding out who I am, I started learning about and realizing, how do I protect myself? Now at this time, I meet my wife. She has a child. We move in together. We have a child. And I'm still learning all these different things. And now I have multiple DVDs and multiple VHS, whoever remembers that, videos, books, reading, having parties, watching these movies. And yes, it can be scary. Yes, it could be mind troubling, to say the least. Where you think, and trust me, I thought that the police will be kicking down my door like they did at Ruby Ridge. Right? Because you get so entwined, so involved in these videos that you're like, what the heck is going on? Can this really be true? So you go through that. And I went through those phases. Whether, this is fake. I got a family to maintain. But in the back of my mind, this has never left. It always stayed there. So I kept trying to figure out, what do I do next? Okay, I got all this knowledge. I see that government could be corrupt. So what else can I do? And then I started finding out about prepping, right? Prepping. How do you prep? No one taught me. So I had to go out there and learn by myself, reading the books. So I found, after I got my concealed weapons license in Florida, because all this happened in Florida, I got my survival book, How to Survive. And I started reading that because I said, hey, I have a family now. How do I survive situations? How do I survive that with my family? Okay, I have a gun now. Okay, but the gun can only do so much. So I had to figure out, how do I survive? Let me find out. Let me read about it. Let me read about how to survive certain situations. We think about climate. We think about, mobs or government wars or whatever, right? So how do we survive? What do we do? And then you start realizing you need to learn some type of medical. You need to learn how to stock up on food, water, learn how to make a fire. Because I was never taught any of this. So through all this, through my journey, I started realizing I have to teach my kids how to survive, how to make a fire, how to do, etc., etc. And as I moved to Connecticut, my kids were still young, and my oldest came with a Cub Scout flyer. I said, perfect. I am going to learn with my children at the same time how to camp, how to tent, how to make a tent, how to build it, how to put it together. I didn't know how to do any of these things. So I learned. And at the same time, I still kept reading. I still have magazines. I still buy magazines on survival, right? They're out there. All these different things. People, through all these things with the government, just started getting involved in, and I can say what survival is because of the pandemic. Yes, that was something new for me as well. And I said, holy shit, how do I get my family prepared? How do we stay ready? Because we do live in this world where viruses and bacteria and everything happens. We have to stop being naive to ourselves and thinking that this is like paradise. This ain't paradise what we're living in, right? It can be, but we live in a world that is duality. Things will happen, and whether you are ready or not, it's going to be up to you. You can have all the guns in the world. You can have all the water in the world, all the food in the world, right? But at the end of the day, do you know how to create that fire, to create, the filtration for water, just in case if you don't have it, right? Because we can lose everything, but we won't lose ourselves. And that's the goal, right? The goal is not to lose yourselves, because the materialistic things that we may have, whether we have, like I said, all the water, all the food, if it's gone, can we survive? So I just wanted to kind of go deep into that information of who I am and how I got to where I got to when it comes to, let's say, prepping, survival, knowledge, because this is out there and it's up to you whether you want to believe it or not. Because I know so many people that just don't want to believe because, they have a house by the beach. They drive Teslas. They drive Mercedes. They're in the club all weekend. They eat out all the time. They're in parties. They drink. I love all those things. The people that know me know I love, like I said in my introduction video, I'm into cigars. I drink, I taste different liquors. I like that. I'm into street fashion. I buy sneakers. I'm not a hype beast, but I like sneakers. You know, I like that fashion, right? You know, I like dressing fly. Who doesn't like dressing fly? Especially I'm from New York, right? We like to dress fly all the time. Right? Look good, right? But at the end of the day, I'm still grounded to a certain extent of this world that we live in. Because this world that we live in has its flaws as well as its ups, right? And everything is not happy. There's a lot of things that are sad, but how do we get over it? How do we come out of that sadness? And is being mentally prepared for anything that could get thrown our way, right? Anything that could get thrown our way. So I say to everyone out there, whether you want to listen, whether you just don't give a shit, but those that really may be on the position that I was and in the position that I am now, start doing the things that would better you and your family. Start preparing yourselves a step at a time, right? A step at a time. Don't go crazy. Step at a time, is that's how I did it. And I started building myself. I don't have pantries like you probably see in Doomsday Preppers of National Geo. I don't have all that, right? Because I still want to learn how to sustain myself with a little bit, but still want to put the work in. If I had to survive, if things really got to where all these books ever talked about, and the way things are going, the way we are having cyber attacks, and all these countries want to do to us here in America, we have to learn how to survive without internet, without the technology. Okay, so it's a video that I've always wanted to do, to break down something that hopefully will help someone out that may have been feeling a certain way like I used to with everything that goes on in this world, and doesn't know or have an idea of where to go. And the people that try to keep that information to themselves, that's just being plain asshole, right? Because when you have knowledge, knowledge is good to share. When you have information, information is good to share. It's up to the person that's receiving that information, that's receiving that knowledge, to either take it or leave it. It's not your job to push it down their throat. You can't force someone to believe it, but it's your job to give the information. So on that note, I'm gonna leave you guys, and hopefully it helps someone out find their way, start building whatever it is that they wanted to build and always thought about it. So salute Grand Legend.